And we're live. Welcome to the third edition of Open Source Block Explorers. Now we're working with two awesome teams, MyEtherWallet and POA Network, who are pretty far along on their Block Explorer. And I just want to throw out a story that happened to me this week on why we need an open source Block Explorer. The way Giveth works is we have a multi-cent every week where we send a transaction out that has a bunch of internal transactions, but it's kind of a new contract not many people use. And so Etherscan doesn't work very well with it. And so one of our devs was looking at his account and he noticed that he got the same send twice. So he actually sent some of the Ether back to Giveth, but Etherscan was just wrong. That transaction had actually failed. And so his accounting using Etherscan didn't work, and there was no other block explorer that we could use to actually see those internal transactions anyway. We had to go and check the parity trace. So, you know, whether it's open source or not, we absolutely need a second source of truth in this in this Ethereum world. So thank you guys so much for working on it with us. But yeah, let's do quick intros. I'm Griff. I work with Giveth, and I'm just trying to make sure all the people working on open source block explorers know that they are loved. How about Igor?
Hi guys, my name is Igor from POA Network. We are sidechain to Ethereum, and we need Explorer because it's an essential part of ecosystem. So we decided to start working on POA Explorer and in December. And we'll share a quick update later. Thank you.
Nice. Andrew?
Hey guys, I'm Andrew. I am from POA Network as well. I am the project lead on the Open Source Block Explorer. So I work on that day to day with our development team. Glad to be here.
Nice. Igor? Or sorry, Aldo?
Hi there, guys. I'm Aldo. I'm from, well, I collaborate in Ubik. I'm creating the Shokku open source version of Infura, and I do other things as well related to the Ubik ecosystem.
Nice. And TJ? Oh, you're muted.
My name is Jay Rush. I've been working on something called QuickBlocks for about 2 years. The more I work on it, the more I recognize that it needs to be open source. My code is partially open source and partially not. So I'm trying my best to get to a point where I can open source it fully. And I really want to open source it fully. But I'm funding myself, so I'm looking for a way to get to a place where I can get some funding somewhere from someone. So I'm building something that's probably upside down from what you guys are talking about. It's not, I wouldn't call it a blockchain explorer. I would call it an account explorer. It does not use a giant database on an expensive machine. It uses no database because all the data is already stored on the node. And it just makes accessing the data directly from the node faster, easier, more accessible. So cool. I'm doing kind of a different thing, but I think that's an important part as well because
hey, this is just intros.
And I'm Jay. I'm talkative. I'm overly talkative as well.
No, yeah, well, I've known Jay for years, so I'm excited to have him on this call. But let's just get down to the agenda, and I think this will be actually a brief. Yeah. So we have first a very quick update from MyEtherWallet, who couldn't be here today. Unfortunately, Kostler couldn't make it. One of his devs is sick, and the other one he just hired for this project is still getting up to speed. But he did give a good update. He said that they're currently working on the account page and getting balances for token balances is basically complete. So that's cool. They just need to merge it in. And they're adding a caching layer to cache Eth calls. That way they can support all the different sorts of dApps, not just tokens, because right now they can allow users to customize a contract page with information from the contract itself. So that's pretty cool. They're really working on that customization. Like every dApp can customize it, and they're making progress on that this week. So yeah, then and they said they'll definitely be here next time. So that's from MyEtherWallet. How about POA? Who's got an update for that?
Yeah, let me start. A few days ago, we had one day ago, we had a presentation in Russian language for our Russian-speaking community, and like one part was about POA Explorer, and I actually calculated how many resources were allocated, how many people working on the project now. So now we have 9 people working on this version, and we plan to onboard 5 more people in May. I understand that in software engineering, usually we cannot increase number of developers and the same way increase the speed of development. But good thing here is that we know what we need to do, right? Which features are missing. And yeah, so next week we'll onboard a new team to our project. It's a company, Platform Tech from Brazil, and Andrew will fly to São Paulo, Brazil, to educate these new developers about Ethereum, blockchain explorers, and so forth. So it's not only I'm not only excited about more and more teams coming to this project, but also that we take smart people from different industries, like worked on different industries, but not on blockchain yet, and educate them about our ecosystem, and they're building tools for Ethereum ecosystem and not for someone else's ecosystem, right? So that's very exciting. And this company is actually created Elixir programming language, which we're using in our base stack. So it's very exciting that we can get access to this kind of talents. And yeah, and Andrew, do you want to update a bit what our progress in these 2 weeks?
Sure. So over the last 2 weeks, we've added themability to our Explorer, which makes it easy for other projects to change the skin colors, add their logos, so on and so forth. So we added those features. We added some transaction details to the account page. We were working on a lot of the front-facing aspects of the Explorer and made a lot of progress in that area. We're hoping within the next 3 to 4 weeks being able to launch our version 1 possibly. And yeah, that's pretty much all for the update from us.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you guys for making it so easy for people to change. Like, you guys are really coming at it with the open source spirit. So that really does a lot,
Yeah, that was one of our from our designers aspect. We're really concentrating on doing that and making it easy for everyone to change the skins and logos and everything else.
Yeah.
If Ubiq one day will be interested in hosting this Explorer, it's very easy to modify to have it in green color and with the famous logo.
Yeah, exactly. But and I think that will make it easier or make people want to also contribute to it, because they can use it for their own chain. So,
that's our goal. And if you think about Ethereum networks, it's not like 1, 5, 10 networks. It's hundreds or maybe thousands of networks, right? Because how many enterprises around the world deployed their private version of Ethereum, right? Hundreds, right? At least. Yeah. So there is a need for hundreds of versions of Explorer and branded. So that's our goal.
I'll have to go talk to Parity Network and see if they want to get on this call. We got another one coming up, maybe. Anyway, don't want to off topic, dangerous topic.
We have some great suggestions for them.
Anyway, now we're on to QuickBlocks and TJ. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your project and and how it could become a part of open source block explorers. Oh, you're muted again, TJ.
I think it's easiest to explain it by saying that my goal from the very beginning was to run fully decentralized on a small machine. So And I never wanted to duplicate the data that's on the blockchain already. So my code runs on a laptop, and it doesn't build a big index of all the blocks and all the accounts. It simply watches the chain and pulls transactions specific to a given account or to a given collection of accounts. So, for example, it might be useful to an accountant or something like that who wants to pull transactions from his 20 clients' accounts, but he doesn't want to pull transactions from every account on the entire blockchain. So if there is things like open source blockchain explorer that's running like Infura or something like that, or it's running like Etherscan, my code can bring that local data or customized data for that user down to his machine so that he doesn't have to repeatedly go back up to Infura. I don't know if you ever tried to use Infura as a remote node, but it's kind of brutal because it's significantly slower than the node running on your own machine. And I think the node running on your own machine is even too slow to be usable if you're doing something like trying to collect transactions per account. So I've done a number of things to try to get around that problem where I don't have to duplicate all the data, but I can get data fast enough that it's usable. And over the last year, I've very steadily moved towards understanding that what I've done is very useful and probably won't be used if it's not open source. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm trying to get over that hump of coming. I know, Griff, you're a long time. You don't even understand what I'm talking about, but because you love the open source world so much. But I aspire to be as open as you are one day. So.
Yeah, I mean, economic models are a real thing. So I mean, we understand. It's everyone has to figure out a way to put food on their table, you know.
So I'm definitely open. About half of my code is already open source. It doesn't have the right license on it, so I'm exploring how to actually license it correctly so that it becomes fully open source. And then parts of it are not open source yet, but I'm talking to people about trying to help me get over that hump to make that open source. So.
You know, that's an interesting question. What license are you considering?
Well, I don't know. I look at like the EIPs and I see the Creative Commons, and then, you know, I'm not a lawyer.
Maybe you can use as, for example, I'm thinking a case. GitLab has a dual licensing model where the code is open source, but they have the enterprise version, which add more features, and they charge the clients that wants to pay for it, for those extra services. But the basic of the code is open source. Maybe that license or that kind of model can work.
Right. So I'm exploring that right now. It's, you know, it's as much as I can. So, but I do think a solution that costs, I saw in the one document, $2,000 or $3,000 a month is one thing, and then I think there's also a need, in addition, for a decentralized, cheap solution that runs on your own machine. So, you know, I'd like to maybe expand the words blockchain explorer to include account explorer or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
More or less, with your service with QuickBlocks, how much are you spending in terms of servers, if you can say it? I mean,
zero. I spend zero. I run Parity on a laptop.
Okay.
In tracing mode, and I run QuickBlocks right beside Parity for free. It doesn't pick every account. It picks the 300 accounts that are in my test case bin, and it can keep up with the front of the chain for those 300 accounts.
Okay.
So I don't spend a penny. I mean, you know, I don't spend a penny for the actual scraping. It's running on my desktop.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
Now, and the data is really small.
Yeah.
Because it's not, it's instead of hundreds of gigabytes of data, it's literally tens of megabytes of data. So.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be a nice plugin to an Explorer, right?
Yeah.
Like it's one of these things. A lot of these open source block explorers are talking about custom pages for a dApp or for a company that wants to have like their piece of the Ethereum blockchain displayed. Seems like QuickBlocks would be a nice addition to make everything move nice and play well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has this caching aspect as well, where if you're getting most of your data from remote, it brings it local, and then it's a lot faster as well.
Yeah. This is why it's hopefully important that we have some kind of standards on API calls and all these things so that it can plug into both the versions of open source block explorers that are coming. So, I think we can move on to Shokku. I don't even know how to say that.
Yeah, Shokku. It's shock in Japanese. For the past 2 weeks, I moved to another house, to the current one, so I didn't have any spare time to spend improve the code base. But recently I started again, and I decided to migrate the code base to use Nest.js and Node framework.
Can you just explain Shokku a little bit in case people?
Oh yeah, okay. Shokku is a project I came with like 4 or 3 months ago, where I said, okay, Infura is not open source at all, so I'm going to replicate the same API with the same behavior, but adding to the mix or specific design it for Ubik network. After time passed, I said, okay, it doesn't matter if it's only just Ubik, it can incorporate more networks, which is Ethereum, for example, or whatever network we want to throw in. And basically, I started expanding the idea. My main goal is to have everything running on Kubernetes as a microservices architecture with an API that mimics Infura with additions. So right now I'm working on improving the code base, and that's my main goal. I'm doing this in my spare time. I'm not having any kind of funding right now. The code is open source, so you can go there and check it out what I'm currently doing. And
I should say, if you're, Giveth has this program called social coding, and it's not like we give a lot of money, but what we do is we offer reward points. So basically, if you just present your project in our group, we give out reward points for when you make progress on it, and just like it's a place where you can say what you're working on and say what you're going to do this month, and then if you do it, we give you points, and those points might be worth like $100 a month or $200 a month. It's not a whole lot, but it's like
it works. Yeah.
And it creates a community of people that are working on things. And if one project pauses or whatever, and they get more interested in someone else's project, you can kind of find other collaborators too.
Yeah, for me, the good part of this is, as is open source, anybody can go there and ask things or improve things. So that's the main part of me doing this clone as open as I can.
Yeah. Well, any questions for Shokku? Yeah, Igor.
Yeah, so it's not like question, but we let's discuss. We can help because we're also interesting in this kind of part of infrastructure, and we think this is one of points of centralization of current ecosystem with Infura. So we can let's contact out of this video, and let's say if you we have resources, right? We just need to allocate these resources the way that our token holders will understand, right? We cannot spend on someone else's projects, but if we're using this for like benefits of POE, we can sponsor some of this work and support it.
Okay.
The same question with TJ, and if you remember in ETH Denver, we said to work with us, but we cannot work under like restrictive and proprietary license. So all code we produce is open source under GPL or MIT license, depending on the apps. So like if you're interested in our resources and you're ready to work in this space, we can help you also.
Cool.
Yeah. Thanks, Igor.
Yeah, let's discuss.
What were those licenses that you mentioned again?
So we use GPL3. So it's most widely used license in blockchain space. GPL or LGPL. LGPL can be. I'm not lawyer, right? But can be included into patents. So this may be interesting for your use case, right? Because of patenting. Yeah, just consider it, and yeah, let's talk outside of this video about like business part of this negotiation. But we understand that we should we're building one. We're working in the same ecosystem, right? So we need to help each other.
Right.
That's cute. That's good.
Nice to see you again, by the way.
Yeah. So yeah, well, I don't want to make this call longer than it needs to be. Do you guys have any questions or any other comments that we should go through before we end this thing?
Yeah, I'd like to add that next time we will try to make some live demos of our current progress, and I think it's important to have live demos.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for live streaming.
I have a quick thing to say.
Yeah.
One of the things, because I'm kind of focused on decentralization, I'm looking at the node very closely and carefully. And I think there's a number of things that the node could do to improve the situation for a scraper, especially one like mine. So one of the other parts of this effort might be to help define what kinds of things are really the sticking points in the way the node is currently implemented. And I'm talking about the RPC in particular. So there's a number of things in the RPC that are, could be, I don't really know a whole lot about that code, but it seems to me like there could be a couple of things that could be improved that would make retrieval of data a lot easier. And then the other thing I wanted to say is we should be preparing very heavily and quickly for sharding, because it sure feels to me like when sharding comes, it's going to be just 10. If it's already hard, it's going to be 100 times harder.
Yeah.
And I watched the discussion of sharding, and I'm not seeing a whole lot of.
Can I add from my side? In latest update of Geth version for Ethereum Classic, there's optimization for indexing. It's worth to look. And about sharding, there are different concepts of sharding. Let's say sidechain plus bridges is way of sharding of Ethereum ecosystem, right? It's available now. So there are different ways, and yeah, blockchain explorers can be very, very useful for shards. Okay.
Do they respond well? I mean, do they scale as sharding happens? Do those blockchain explorers scale?
Well, it depends. What do you mean by sharding? If you think about sharding, like sidechain plus bridge, where you can move assets from network to network, blockchain explorers can easily be deployed for these new networks. If it's a subset of main network, which we've never seen in any like public systems, blockchain systems yet, right? So we need to build it first, and after
that's a good
apply tools, right?
Great.
Well, awesome. Well, dev time is expensive, so I think I'm going to call this one. Thank you guys so much for showing up and giving us the updates, and I'll see you guys in another 2 weeks.
Thanks, Griff, as always.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye.